My fiancé's first love is a delicate and sickly beauty who can't do much and often calls my fiancé to ask for his help. One day, my fiancé was called away by her on the phone again. I couldn't bear it any longer and followed him. As soon as the door opened, I saw that his first love was wearing a halter top that covered her upper body and not her lower body in the middle of winter. And she threw herself into my fiancé's arms. I forgot how to turn on the air conditioner. It's so cold. I turned around and left. My fiancé turned on the air conditioner for her first before coming down to chase after me. She's just a sick person. Is it interesting for you to argue with her? It really is quite boring. I don't want this man anymore. The first anniversary of my engagement to Max happened to be on Valentine's Day. I made a reservation at a restaurant in advance, bought movie tickets, and personally drove to his company to pick him up after work, so that he, who often said I was too cold, could feel my enthusiasm. Unexpectedly, as soon as I drove to the entrance of his company, I saw him coming out of the gate in a hurry. He didn't even notice my conspicuous car and directly hailed a taxi and left. I frowned and called him. It took him a while to answer the phone. As soon as he opened his mouth, he began to complain about his exhaustion. Stell, I'm still busy. Can you wait for me obediently? I exposed him directly. I just saw you take a taxi and leave. Where are you going to be busy? He paused for a moment. Realizing that his lie had been exposed by me, he told the truth. It's Belle. She went to the amusement park to play and got lost in there. She's crying right now. You know she's timid. I'm worried that if she cries for too long, she'll feel unwell again. I'm going to pick her up. It was Belle again. Since she returned to the country half a year ago, she has been everywhere in Max's and my life. I asked somewhat unhappily, can't she read? Or can't she speak? Aren't there any staff in the amusement park? She can just ask and get out. Does she really need you to pick her up? Max's tone also became unhappy. Belle is different from you. She's introverted and timid. She can't do it alone. I said coldly, do you know what day it is today? Max sighed, looking hesitant and helpless. Stell, I hadn't fulfilled my obsession. What are you arguing with a sick person for? Be sensible. I'll make it up to you when I get back. Before I could respond, he hung up the phone. I looked at the turned-off phone screen and was lost in thought for a long time. Once again, Max chose her over me between Belle and me. Their two families are old friends and neighbors. They are like siblings and childhood sweethearts. Belle has lost both her parents, has poor health, coughs every few steps, and also suffers from depression. If I get angry with him because of this, I'll seem unreasonable and petty. But my fiancé spends more time with her than with me. I don't want to think about when this kind of life will end. But it's obvious that I'm hating Belle more and more, even though she's very pitiful. On Valentine's Day, I temporarily invited a single colleague from my unit to have dinner together and then watched a movie together. And my fiancé was accompanying his delicate and inseparable first love to visit the amusement park. From Belle's WeChat moments, I saw how happy they were having. They rode the carousel together. Belle curled up in Max's arms, covering her ears and looking very scared. But she managed her expression well and looked like a frightened rabbit. Max looked at her with full of doting. They ate cotton candy together. Belle handed the cotton candy with a lipstick mark from her bite to Max's mouth and watched him eat it with a smile. They sat on the flower bed to rest together. Belle lay on Max's lap, the position her lips were facing and her delicate, affected, and suggestive expression were the scheming that anyone with eyes could see. But only Max couldn't see it. In his heart, Belle is just a simple and delicate younger sister. Huh. Younger sister. It was already past 11 o'clock after watching the movie. I couldn't help but open Belle's WeChat moments again and found that she had newly uploaded a familiar photo. In the photo, it was clearly the community where Max's and my bridal chamber was located. We had decorated that house, but we hadn't lived there yet. We were going to move in after getting married. I couldn't accept another woman staying there for a night first. Especially Belle. Just call me not kind enough. But I really think she's bad luck. I immediately called. It took 3 consecutive calls before it was answered, but the person who answered the phone was Belle. Her voice was as delicate and weak as she was. And she looked completely innocent. Stell, is there anything wrong? I said directly, let Max answer the phone. She didn't call for him but said, Brother Max is cooking for me. You can just tell me if you have anything. I'll pass the message on to him. The way she said this subtly put me on the opposite side of them. People who didn't know might think she was Max's fiancé. Where is this woman simple? I didn't want to waste words with her either, and said coldly, give the phone to Max. She was silent for a while, said nothing, and directly hung up the phone. I called several more times, but no one answered. I'm also the kind of person who won't give up until I achieve my goal. I kept calling with a blank expression. I don't know which call it was, but it was finally answered again. This time it was Max. Before I could speak, he directly accused me without distinguishing right from wrong. Can you stop being so unreasonable? Belle didn't feel well on the way, so I brought her up to rest for a while. She'll leave soon. Do you really have to call to drive her away? Stell, when did you become like this? Forget it. I'll talk to you when I get back. She ran out alone just now, and I have to send her back quickly. After saying what he wanted to say, he hung up the phone. I clenched my phone tightly, feeling that my patience had reached its limit. Is this the person I'm about to marry? If he still leaves me to find his dear sister every now and then after we get married, can I stand it? When Belle returned to the country half a year ago, Max and I went to pick her up together. At that time, although I didn't know her at all, when I learned that her parents had passed away unexpectedly, and she was the only one left in her family, I was full of sympathy and pity for her. So, even though she threw herself into Max's arms and cried as soon as we met, and kept sobbing in his arms on the way back, I didn't think much of it. I never imagined that such a pale, thin, hadn't fulfilled my obsession, and pitiful girl would become a serious problem for me. But I've always been proud. My knowledge, my bottom line, and my vision don't allow me to engage in female competition with a woman. Therefore, in the past 6 months, no matter how many times she has called Max away from me with various excuses, no matter how unhappy I was, I endured it. Just as Max said, she lost her parents, has poor health herself, is more sensitive and fragile in character, and also has depression. We should take more care of her. When she gets out of the pain, it will be okay. Now I see that her pain will never go away. At 2:30 in the morning, Belle called me crying, using Max's phone. She apologized to me on the phone, saying that she didn't know today was Valentine's Day. So innocent. She made it sound so real. I shouldn't have gone to the amusement park alone. Gotten lost. Called Brother Max to pick me up. Or felt unwell on the way, and gone to your new house to rest. Stell, I'm sorry. It's my fault. Please forgive me. Or I'll really feel terrible. Max gently scolded her beside her. I told you that Stell won't blame you. You insisted on calling to apologize. All right. Be a good girl and go to bed quickly. I'm going back too. Her voice sounded innocent and wronged. But Stell hasn't accepted my apology yet. Max sighed and immediately ordered me, Stell, quickly tell her you don't blame her and let her go to bed quickly. It's already very late. So he also knew it was late? Disturbing my sleep in the middle of the night and asking me to accommodate her? She made me unhappy. Why should I make her feel comfortable? Without saying a word, I directly hung up the phone, turned on the mute, and went to sleep. When I got up the next morning, Max had already come back. He bought breakfast and had already placed it on the table. His gaze towards me carried a hint of flattery. He always has this expression every time he comes back from Belle's place. Then he will apologize to me and say the words that I'm already familiar with. When she gets out of the pain, I won't care about her anymore. This time, he still used the same routine. While persuading me to have breakfast, he talked about Belle. You don't know. When I rushed over yesterday, she was squatting alone in the amusement park crying. If I had gone a little later, she might have fainted from fright. She has been in poor health since she was a child, and her parents spoiled her so much that she's like a child and can't do anything. Now that she has lost her parents, it will take time for her to grow up. Stell, we have to take care of her. Upon hearing this, I smiled sarcastically and said, Max, Her being pitiful is her own business. What does it have to do with me? I don't owe her anything. He frowned and called my name with a more disapproving tone. Stell. Don't be angry. I know you're angry that I didn't spend Valentine's Day with you yesterday. But think about it. Belle's parents are both gone. She just wanted to go to the amusement park to recall the warmth of the past. How could I refuse her? And I haven't even said anything about you. Belle called you to apologize last night. Why didn't you say it was okay? You know she has depression. Do you know that just because she couldn't get your forgiveness? She kept crying and refused to sleep. So you stayed with her all night, didn't you? A trace of impatience appeared between his eyebrows. If it weren't for you making her. I interrupted him. Lost my appetite. And didn't want to talk to him anymore. I got up and left. Max. Let's find a time to have a good talk. Maybe we should seriously consider whether we should continue our relationship. His face turned pale all of a sudden. He stood up and chased after me. Why are you saying such serious things? You know about Belle. She. I shook my head, indicating that I didn't want to listen anymore. I changed my shoes, carried my bag, and went out directly. On the topic of Belle, I'm never in the right. She's in poor health, has lost both her parents, is too delicate to take care of herself, and is very pitiful. So I, who am healthy, have both parents, can take care of myself, and am not pitiful enough. Can't blame her. Let alone compete with her for anything. Otherwise, I'll seem not magnanimous enough. Be throwing a tantrum. And not kind enough. But what does her becoming like this have to do with me? Belle is truly a remarkable woman. She has a remarkable grasp of winning people's hearts and manipulating human nature. Firstly, having fulfilledly. Her appearance gives her an inherent advantage. She is pale, thin, having fulfilled my eye, and looks charmingly pitiful. When she smiles, she appears delicate, and when she weeps, there is a strong sense of vulnerability. Secondly, she has lost her parents and become an orphan, and her health is not good either. She often has fevers, colds, and coughs. When she asks others for help, she will apologize first. She will say, having fulfilled my eye, I'm sorry to trouble you again. It's all my fault. I shouldn't be so delicate. But I really don't know what to do. As she speaks, she will start crying, and then mention how suddenly her parents passed away and didn't teach her many things. Finally, having fulfilled my obsession, she will say that she will definitely study hard and strive not to trouble others anymore. No one who is asked for help by her can refuse her. However, she is also quite strange. She always asks men for help, especially those who already have girlfriends. For example, last time, Max couldn't rush back from his business trip, so she asked another male friend to fix her water dispenser. She told that person that the water dispenser was broken and wasn't dispensing water, and she was very thirsty. As a result, that person's girlfriend was not someone to be trifled with. She directly led a maintenance worker to Belle's place and blocked her at the door, speaking in a sarcastic tone. I can understand that you can't fix the water dispenser. After all, everyone has their own expertise. But I'm really curious. Why did you think my boyfriend could fix it? After all, you are a proper college student. Can't you even call a maintenance worker? You told my boyfriend that you were thirsty. May I ask if there is no running water in your home? Even if there isn't, can't you go downstairs to buy some water? I can understand if you don't know how to boil water. But you can't even buy water? I really don't believe it. Or is it that it's not your throat that's thirsty, but something else? Do you want my boyfriend to water you? Then I can give you the phone number of a nightclub and call a few gigolos to quench your thirst. The end result of that incident was that the tough girlfriend broke up with her boyfriend, because Belle fainted from crying that day. After waking up, she called the boyfriend continuously for 3 days and tearfully apologized to his girlfriend. So that man also thought that his girlfriend had gone too far. And the girlfriend became the bad guy who bullied the poor and pitiful Belle. The two of them had a quarrel and officially broke up. So I really don't understand. Belle, who always gets what she wants. Where on earth is she pitiful? Even more ridiculously, after she broke up that couple, she stopped contacting that man. She said it was because she had accidentally done something wrong and felt very sad. And she would keep a distance from others in the future. If you say she doesn't learn from her mistakes, she really doesn't pester that man anymore. If you say she does learn from her mistakes, she starts to use the same old tricks and pester Max, who already has a fiancé. So, I also became another villain, who bullies people. Max, who originally sent a message saying that he would come to the company to pick me up after work, stood me up again. Because Belle called him and said that there was a power outage at her home and she didn't know what to do. In order to prevent me from getting angry, she even sent me a message to tell me about it. Stell, there's a power outage at my home. I don't know how to pay the electricity bill. So I asked brother Max to come and help me. You won't be angry, will you? I ignored her. It's really a huge joke that a college student and doesn't know how to pay the electricity bill. Soon, without a low sigh, Max probably realized that it wasn't good to stand me up without saying anything. So he called me to explain. She's just a fool. She can't do anything and is afraid of the dark. I'll go and help her deal with it and come back right away. Stell, you go home and wait for me first. I'll make your favorite spicy chicken for you tonight. My tone was very cold and calm. You can pay the electricity bill on your phone. Don't you know that? You have to go there in person. You're even dumber than her, aren't you? Before he could respond, I hung up the phone. Let it be. It's not the first time anyway. I began to seriously think about my relationship with Max. I've already made up my mind. I can't accept having a woman like Belle around my husband. I can't accept my husband wronging me again and again for another woman. I really should have a good talk with Max. If he can cut off his relationship with Belle, I can consider forgiving him and continuing this hard-won relationship that has lasted for 7 years. If he can't, even though it will be painful, I have to stop the losses in time and end this relationship. Belle sent another message. It was a photo. In the photo, Max was wearing a bare apron and cooking in the kitchen. Belle said, "Brother Max is afraid that I'll be hungry. So he's cooking for me. It's non-spicy chicken. He always remembers that I can't eat spicy food. He's really so gentle." What do you think, Stell? Thank you so much. Stell, you've trained such a good man. Not only is he cooking for me, but he also bound my electricity bill account. I won't have to be afraid of power outages anymore in the future. I feel a bit embarrassed that he spent money on it. But I will repay him well. See, as in fulfilled my exa. This is where she's really good. She always speaks so politely. With thank you, and I'm sorry, always on her lips. But she doesn't hold back from doing things that hurt people's feelings. I know she's deliberately trying to make me angry. And I'm indeed very angry. But so what? Any emotion will fade away over time. However, when she mentioned the electricity bill, it reminded me of another thing. In fact, she wasn't originally in this city. During that period, she often called Max in the middle of the night, crying that she had dreamed of her parents and was very scared. Max was really worried about her, so he rented a house for her in the city where we settled down. It wasn't far from our place, making it convenient to take care of her. I even paid the rent. Thinking of this, I finally replied to her with a message. It doesn't matter. Since we pay the rent and electricity bills, you can just transfer the money to me together when the time comes. This time, it was her who didn't reply. I didn't wait at home for Max to come back and make spicy chicken for me. Instead, I ate outside and then went home. The food cooked in the restaurant was freshly made and didn't taste bad. It's something that can be eaten anywhere. Why should I wait for someone who doesn't know when he'll come back and may not even come back to make it for me? If I wait and he comes back, I still have to endure the grievances during the waiting time. If I wait and he doesn't come back, I'll just be the one feeling wronged. It's not worth it no matter how I think about it. I sent a message to Max. Find some time and let's have a good talk. I'll be honest with you. You can only choose one between me and Belle. He didn't reply to me. And I didn't wait for his reply either. After sending this message, my mood became strangely calm. I even started thinking about how I should tell my parents about this if I ended this relationship, so that they could accept it calmly. After all, They have always been very satisfied with Max. According to my usual habit, I washed up, forced myself to read a book for a while in bed, and then forced myself not to play with my phone for too long before going to sleep. This time, I locked the bedroom door from the inside. I didn't want to be disturbed by Max, who might come back at an unknown time, while I was sleeping. That night, I had a rare good sleep. When I got up early in the morning, Max wasn't at home. But the thermal box on the table and the spicy chicken inside were still warm, which meant that he had come back and probably made it early in the morning. There was also a piece of paper pressed under the thermal box. Max once said that the words on electronic products always seem cold and sometimes can't convey the true meaning. So on some important occasions, he would express himself by writing a letter. He said that the words written by hand could convey his true feelings. So this time, he was sincerely apologizing to me. Stell, I've thought about it carefully. I didn't do well in the matter of Belle. It's only right that you're angry. I'm apologizing to you. I'm sorry. But we've known each other since high school. Got together in college. And now we're engaged and about to get married. This journey has really been very difficult. I don't want you to give up our relationship of so many years because of these trivial matters. Give me a little more time. I'll arrange Belle properly as soon as possible and will never let her disturb our life again. So, can you forgive me one more time? Tomorrow is the weekend. After work tonight, I'll take you to the rotating music restaurant for dinner and then go to watch a movie. We'll watch the horror movie you like, okay? Your loving husband is waiting for your reply. Yes, Kaisbet, we've been together for 6 years already. In fact, my temper isn't very good. And we've broken up a few times. Every time, it was him who took the initiative to make up and apologize to me. Before Belle appeared, our relationship was actually very, very stable. I thought for a long time and decided to give him one last chance. Whether we can get married depends on how he deals with the matter of Belle. Anyway, I will never accept Belle staying by our side. I replied to him with the message. Then it depends on your performance. See you at the restaurant tonight. I'm close by, so you don't need to come and pick me up. He quickly replied with an emoji of a saluting cowcat. Yes, having fulfilled my obsession. Wife. I smiled. And the pent-up frustration in my heart less and a bit. Stell. It's just a meal. Is it more important than a human life? Belle wasn't feeling well. She made a distress call and then fainted. I could only take her to the hospital first. You can understand that, right? I couldn't just stand by and watch her die. I waited for him at the restaurant for over an hour, and this was the answer he gave me. I was so angry that tears almost came to my eyes. I'm asking you, what's the ambulance for? Did you really have to go there and take her to the hospital? If she really had something serious. With your delay, even if there was nothing wrong, something would have gone wrong. You can't just stand by and watch her die. You can't just ignore her when she's sick. You can't let her face the darkness alone. You can't let her go to the amusement park alone. You rented a house for her. Paid the water and electricity bills. Cooked for her. Washed her clothes. Ordered takeout for her. What are you to her? Are you her servant or her dog? Or maybe her boyfriend? Since you do everything for her, why don't you just marry her? He scolded me. Stell. Your words are too harsh. You know I've done all these things. And I haven't hidden them from you. Is it meaningful for you to say these things now? Belle is still in a coma. I'm really worried about her. How about this? When she wakes up, I'll go back and explain it to you properly. Calm down a bit. I can't calm down. I was a bit hysterical. Why is it that every time she has something wrong, it just happens to be at the time we've arranged? How can there be so many coincidences in the world? She's clearly doing it on purpose. I was so focused on venting my anger that I didn't notice the oncoming food delivery bike. I was knocked down to the ground all of a sudden. My lower back hit the curb, and my leg was also pressed by the electric bike. I let out a scream, and cold sweat immediately broke out on my forehead. The food delivery guy also fell down. Without caring about himself, he quickly got up and helped me up. How are you? Are you okay? With anger, grievances, and pain, I burst into tears directly. No. My leg hurts so much. And my waist hurts too. I was still holding my phone in my hand. And the call hadn't been hung up yet. I heard Max asking anxiously. Stell. Stell. What's wrong with you? I cried out to him. I was hit. Max. I can't move. I think my leg is broken. Where are you? Don't be afraid. I'll call an ambulance for you. Don't be scared. Stell. Don't worry. Your leg isn't broken. Just fractured. You'll get better after resting for a while. When I woke up, I was lying in a hospital bed. Max was sitting by the bedside, holding my hands in his palms. As soon as he saw me wake up, he quickly told me about my current situation and the immediate treatment plan. I've already explained the situation to your company and applied for leave for you. Just take a good rest. He looked at me with full of tenderness and pity in his eyes. Does it hurt a lot? It'll be okay soon. I've also taken leave and will stay here to take care of you. He seemed to have not slept all night. There were dark circles under his eyes. His beard had grown out. And his voice was incredibly hoarse. When people are in pain, they are always particularly vulnerable. And their hearts also soften. These few words of his made me forget the previous grievances and anger. Max. It hurts so much. He stroked my face and smoothed my hair. I know it hurts. It'll feel better in a few days. My wife has really suffered. After saying that, he leaned over and kissed my forehead. A kiss will make the pain go away. He used to comfort me like this when I wasn't feeling well. Especially during that period of infectious pneumonia. After I was infected, he didn't care at all about getting infected himself and accompanied me and took care of me throughout the whole process. That's when I made up my mind to get engaged to him. He still looks the same as before. I thought that he still loves me. I thought that instead of quarreling with him about Belle, I should talk to him calmly and find a suitable solution. A solution that would prevent us from quarreling. Before I could speak, the door of the ward was pushed open. Belle came in wearing a thin dress and carrying 2 bowls of hot porridge. Brother Max. Stell. I bought porridge for you. You must be hungry. Right? Max scolded her. You're still a patient yourself. Why are you running around? I'll take care of Stell. You go back and lie down quickly. Belle smiled weakly. My health is just like this. It's okay. You've taken care of me so much on a regular basis. I also want to do something for you. As she spoke, she put the table board on the hospital bed in place and took out the porridge from the food bag. When she was about to put it on the table, her hand turned over. And the porridge spilled directly onto the bed and also onto my leg. Ah! She let out a scream and covered her finger. It's so hot. I also screamed at the same time. Quick! Take the quilt away. Max suddenly let go of my hand. I thought he would help me deal with the quilt. But unexpectedly, he grabbed Belle's hand. I told you not to do these things. Look, look. You got burned. Come with me and rinse it with cold water quickly. Belle started crying. I'm sorry. I'm so useless. Max was both angry and concerned. He pulled her and walked outside. What are you saying? You just haven't done these things before. The heat of the porridge penetrated through the thin quilt and seeped onto my leg, making me gasp in pain. I called out to Max, help me take the quilt away first. The porridge spilled on my leg. And it's very hot. He paused for a moment and looked back at my leg. Stell. Wait for a while. I'll take Belle to rinse her hand first and we'll come back to help you deal with it soon. After saying that, he pulled Belle and left. When they went out, Belle looked back at me. If I wasn't mistaken, she was smiling. Smiling triumphantly. This time, she didn't hide her malice at all. And all Max saw was her burned finger. He didn't look back at me even once throughout the whole process. My heart completely cooled down at that moment. There will be no more discussions or chances. Max. I don't want you anymore. I pressed the call bell. And a nurse came to help me change the quilt. My leg was already red from the burn. A nurse applied some medicine for me and asked me to leave it outside the quilt to air for a while. It was the end of February. Even with the air conditioner on, it was quite cold. The exposed skin quickly developed goosensed. I endured it silently and took out my phone to call my mom. When I dialed the number, I had already mentally prepared myself. And my tone seemed okay. But when I heard my mom's voice, I couldn't help but choke up. Mom. I'm in the hospital. My home is in the local area and not very far from the hospital. In less than 40 minutes. My mom arrived by taxi. She even had time to bring me a meal. But Max, who said he would be back soon, still hadn't returned. Fortunately, hadn't fulfilled my session. I didn't wait for him. You child. You're already so old but still so clumsy. You can even get hit while walking. What are your eyes for? While scolding me, my mom looked at my leg with pity. It's fractured. That must hurt a lot. How did you get burned too? You unlucky child. I listened to her nagging while eating. And tears fell into my food. When my mom saw this, she started comforting me again. Okay. Okay. I know my dear baby is in pain. Eat well. I'll ask your dad to stew some bone soup for you and send it over in the evening. You know. You are what you eat. You'll get better soon. She started telling me about the trivial matters at home, gossiping about this and that. It was obvious that she was trying to distract me. It wasn't until I finished eating that she asked me, "Where's your fiancé? Didn't he come to see you when you got injured?" More than an hour had passed, and Max still hadn't come back. I took a deep breath and said, "Mom, I want to break off the engagement with Max. A man without a sense of propriety can't be kept." This was the first sentence my mom said after hearing the reason for my decision to break off the engagement. The second sentence was, "Break it off. My daughter is so beautiful and capable. There's no need to worry about not finding someone better. We don't have to suffer this kind of grievance." After she finished speaking, she took her phone and was about to go out. "Just focus on getting better. Your dad and I will take care of this matter." After saying that, she went out to make a phone call. I curled up in the quilt and cried for a while. I felt completely relaxed all over. The gifts that Max's family bought during the engagement were worth about 20,000 yuan in total. I have the money. And I can just return it to him. As for the houses, the one we're living in now was bought by my parents for me. And the bridal chamber was bought by Max's family. There's nothing too difficult to divide in terms of property. Fortunately, hadn't fulfilled, it won't be too troublesome. When Max rushed into the ward, there was a slap mark on his face. It was obvious that it was my mom's doing. He grabbed my hand. His eyes red as he admitted his mistake. This time, he was really flustered. "Stell, I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. Please don't break off the engagement. Okay? I thought you wouldn't get burned through the quilt. So I thought of taking care of Belle first and then coming to help you. You know she's always been very fragile. Even a minor injury might get infected." I expressionlessly pulled my hand back. "Yes, what on earth say? She's so fragile. After the engagement is broken off, you'll be free. You can take care of her around the clock and no longer have to worry about anything happening to her." "Max. Get out. You make me sick just by looking at you." He knelt beside the hospital bed and begged bitterly, crying uncontrollably. He said he knew he was wrong and that if I minded, he wouldn't care about Belle anymore in the future. He also said that we were about to get married. That he had chosen a beautiful wedding dress for me. And that he had already booked the destination for our honeymoon trip. He also said that we had been together for 7 years. Had so much fun. And would be happy in the future. These were all the words I wanted to hear. But at that moment, it just sounded ridiculous. Did he really not know that I minded? He knew. After all, I've always been straightforward and shown my happiness or unhappiness clearly. But he still left me for Belle again and again. He just knew that I loved him, and that I would endure it for his sake. In the past, I could also convince myself that Belle was pitiful and that he took care of Belle as a sister. So I should be patient. But today's incident made me realize completely that it didn't matter what he regarded Belle as. What mattered was that in his heart, Belle was more important than me. Knowing this was enough. I couldn't stand this kind of thing. He told me he would change. Looking at his crying and begging appearance, I thought he might really change. But I didn't need it anymore. Max's parents also came to plead on his behalf. They are all very nice people and have been good to me. After learning the reason for my decision to break off the engagement, they all scolded Max for his lack of propriety. Then they hoped that I would give him another chance. Child. No one is perfect. Max was wrong about this matter. But he already knows his mistake and won't do it again in the future. Many people envy you too. Going from wearing school uniforms to wearing wedding dresses. Don't ruin your relationship of so many years because of an insignificant person. We promise you that Max will definitely change. I asked myself. If he really changed, could I forgive him without any grudges and continue to be with him? The answer was no. The heart doesn't turn cold all of a sudden. I didn't decide to give up on him all of a sudden either. The disappointment accumulated day by day and had reached its peak. It was like a pair of shoes that fit well but were already worn out. When walking through the mud, they got filled with sand and dirt. After being cleaned, the shoes still fit. But the next time I wore them, they would still get filled with new sand and dirt. I could choose not to wear them on the muddy road, but they were already broken. Max was like that pair of shoes that fit but were already broken to me. I don't want him anymore. It's that simple. Max didn't want to break off the engagement. But it didn't matter whether he wanted to or not. We weren't married yet. The money for the engagement gifts had already been returned. And I had nothing to do with him anymore. But he didn't give up. He came to the hospital to see me every day, bringing soup and meals. I told him several times not to come anymore. That my mom would take care of me. But he didn't listen. So I got too lazy to say anything more. Anyway, the meals didn't cost much. I could just pay him back all at once when the time came. During this period, Belle called him many times. But he didn't answer. Later, I found out that he just didn't answer in front of me. Even though I made it clear several times that we had broken up and there was no relationship between us anymore, and that he could pursue his own happiness, he still stuck to his own way. She's not a child anymore. She should learn to take care of herself. I only want to take care of you. Stell. I've thought about it seriously. I really didn't do well before and let you down. But I already know my mistake. I don't ask you to forgive me immediately. I just beg you not to push me away and give me a chance to win you back. I felt a bit annoyed. If he had been like this earlier, we wouldn't have ended up like this. When I hoped he would value me, he ignored my needs every time. When I didn't need him, he still kept giving on his own. Still ignoring my needs. Is this a sign of caring or not caring? I don't want to spare any more thoughts to think about his behavior. I was discharged from the hospital after staying there for 7 days. Max still hadn't moved out of my house. Stell. Your leg isn't fully recovered yet and you need someone to take care of you. Our parents are getting old. And it's not convenient for them to come over. Just let me stay and take care of you. I'll sleep in the guest room and definitely won't disturb you. Stell. When you've fully recovered, if you still won't forgive me, then I'll move out, okay? He was cautious and his face was full of sincerity. Even my parents couldn't help asking me if I should give him another chance. We can see that he's really changed. Besides, he didn't make any mistakes of principle. I didn't directly respond to what my parents said. Because recently, Max had been acting like a model son-in-law in front of them. They had seen with their own eyes how considerate and good Max was to me. So they sincerely hoped that I wouldn't be in such a hurry to make a decision. I told my parents, I know you might not understand my insistence now. Then please just wait and see for yourselves why I must break up with him. After that, I no longer resisted Max's care. Although I didn't mention canceling the engagement, the softening of my attitude gave him the illusion that I had already forgiven him. When my leg was almost fully recovered, I went back to work. There was less caution on his face. And he became more relaxed. Only I knew that this strange calm was brewing the next storm. Because Belle was still here. It seemed that she had some kind of KPI to break up couples. She wouldn't give up until she broke up Max and me. She never stopped sending messages to Max and me. In front of me, she seemed to be apologizing. But in fact, she was showing off. I'm sorry. It's all my fault that made you two quarrel. Brother Max just feels sorry for me. So he's been taking care of me. If you mind, I'll try not to bother him in the future. This was what she said on the day Max and I called off the engagement. If Max and I had cut off all contact with each other from then on, she might have kept her word. Sorry, Stell. I've troubled brother Max again. It's all my fault. I can't eat even a little bit of spicy food. I accidentally ordered something spicy when I ordered takeout. Fortunately, brother Max was careful and quickly ordered milk tea and desserts for me. I felt much better after eating them. This was on the day I was discharged from the hospital. While Max was begging me for forgiveness, he still didn't forget to care about what Belle had eaten. Stell. I'm sorry. I've wasted brother Max's time again. I can't find the clothes he helped me pack. I asked him to help me look for them. Please don't be angry with him. This was on the day Max told me he was working overtime and would come back later to Kark. She was apologizing to me and to Max at the same time. Is Stell angry again? I'm sorry. It's all my fault. Should I not have troubled you? I've made Stell angry again. I'm sorry. Sigh. I didn't know Stell would be angry about such a trivial matter. I'll definitely be more careful and won't trouble you in the future. Between the lines. It was all about me being stingy and troublesome. Unlike her. The overwhelming, tea-like behavior really bothered me. That day was my mother's birthday. Max started making arrangements a few days in advance and really hoped that he could get the forgiveness of me and my family through this opportunity. I was also waiting for this chance to let my parents see clearly what kind of person he really was. So I posted a few moments that were only visible to Belle, giving her the illusion that if she didn't act soon, I might really marry Max. Max's eager attitude also made Belle feel uneasy. Sure enough, before my mother's birthday banquet started, Belle began to take action. Belle is in danger. I have to go over there. As soon as Max said this, the private room fell silent immediately. Mom. Dad. Stell. I'll be back soon. You can start eating first. He was about to leave after saying this, but his parents stopped him. You're not allowed to leave. What day is it today? Are you crazy? They also apologized to us, saying that they would definitely not let him go. My parents were about to speak with serious expressions, but I stopped them. I stood up with a smile and said, Uncle, Auntie. Let him go. I'll go with him. Max heaved a sigh of relief and gave me a satisfied smile. Stell. Thank you for understanding me. You know Belle's health. I'm really worried that something will happen to her. I interrupted him. Stop talking nonsense. Let's go quickly. After saying that, I pushed him out the door. During this time, his parents seemed to realize something and wanted to stop us. But my father stopped them. Let the children solve their own problems. As parents, we shouldn't interfere too much. On the way, Max kept explaining to me, mainly that Belle had called him and her voice was very weak and so on. He didn't even notice that I hadn't responded to him at all. When we arrived at Belle's house, Max took out the key and opened the door as if he was very familiar with the place. As soon as the door opened, Belle threw herself into his arms and said with a sobbing voice, Why did you take so long to come? I forgot how to turn on the air conditioner. I'm almost freezing to death. Max quickly picked her up horizontally and walked into the house. You're such a fool. You can forget everything. I suddenly couldn't help laughing. Was she almost freezing to death? Well, it was such a cold day. And she was wearing a camisolo that didn't cover much and was barefoot. It was no wonder she was cold. Belle buried her head on Max's shoulder and gave me a provocative smile. I returned a smile to her and mouthed, Thank you. She was instantly confused. I took the video I wanted and turned around to leave. I took a taxi back directly. On the way, I sent the video of the two of them being intimate to the parents of both families. My mother immediately replied, Don't come to the restaurant. Your father and I have already gone home. Just come back directly. My father said, I've called the housekeeping service. They will immediately pack up all that guy's things and throw them out. You should also change the password of your door. Max's parents were silent for a long time. Finally, having fulfilled my obsession, Max's mother sent a message. Max doesn't have the good fortune. My child, you're a good girl. And you'll be happy in the future. I replied with a, thank you. Of course. I know how good I am. So I know that I can't compromise and endure grievances. I deserve better. I don't understand. How did we end up like this? Max stopped me at the entrance of my company. His eyes were full of confusion and pain. Belle is just a sick person. Is it really that hard for you to tolerate me taking a little more care of her? Stell. You clearly weren't so picky before. After clearing out his things, I blocked all his contact information. My father called a cargo delivery service and directly sent his things to his home. I hadn't seen him for half a month. Unexpectedly, he suddenly appeared and said these words that make no sense. When I saw him again, the previous feeling of disgust had faded. I was indifferent and looked at him as if he were an unimportant stranger. Max. Don't play dumb now. Okay? His face turned pale. And he reached out to pull me. I took a step back and avoided him. I'm stepping back. You can take care of her as you wish. And she can get your care as she wishes. What a great thing. Don't come to me again. Max. I plan to have no contact with you for the rest of my life. When I turned to leave, he suddenly said, I can delete all her contact information. Stop renting a house for her. And let her leave here. Can you forgive me? I waved my hand at him. It has nothing to do with me. Yes, having fulfilled my exertion. It's completely over between me and him. Whatever he does has nothing to do with me. After being together for so long, I do know him a bit. He came to me not because he really wanted to change. It should be that he found that Belle suddenly didn't want to pay attention to him anymore, right? So he first put the hat of being stingy and picky on me to test my reaction. If I still had the slightest bit of affection for him, he would take advantage of my soft heart and apologize, dragging me back into the previous abyss. Seeing that I didn't react, he realized that I had completely let go. That's why he said he would no longer contact Belle, hoping that I would see his change and trying to drag me back into the abyss. Whether he really wants to get back together with me or wants to stimulate Belle's possessiveness towards him by getting back together with me, I don't know. I don't care anymore. I lost my feelings for him. But I was successful at work. The 2 orders that I had been working on for over a year that hadn't managed to secure suddenly came through. The project that had been stagnant also suddenly became smooth as if it had been blessed. I received a bonus of nearly $2 million on all at once and was even promoted directly. After discussing with my parents, I sold the previous house. With the subsidy from my parents, I directly bought a house on the first floor with a courtyard, and also adopted a dog that I had always wanted to have. My life is getting better and better. And I'm becoming happier and happier. I heard about Max again a year later. Compared with my smooth progress, he didn't seem to be so lucky. He actually ended up in prison. And it was related to Belle. It all started with Belle's new target. The new target was the husband of one of Max's cousins, surnamed Zhang. He worked in the same company as Max. And Max even got his job through Zhang's introduction. Belle used her old tricks and managed to make Mr. Zhang very interested in her. Mr. Zhang wasn't a good person either. He thought Belle was seducing him. So he slept with her. Belle only liked to flirt but didn't want to take responsibility. She didn't expect that she had gone too far. Mr. Zhang forced himself on her several times, took videos, and often used the videos to threaten her and ask her out. Coincidentally, once when the 2 of them were passionately kissing in the company's underground parking lot, Max, who was going home after working overtime, found them. Belle insisted that she had been forced. So, Max and Mr. Zhang got into a fight. It was said that they fought quite fiercely. And both of them ended up in the hospital. What happened next was a bit dramatic. The girl who had been broken up with because of Belle's interference was a good friend of Max's cousin. What a coincidence. Both girlfriends' relationships had been destroyed by the same person. So the 2 of them put their heads together and began to take revenge on the scumbag man and the scheming woman. They also got in touch with me. Without saying much, I directly provided the messages that Belle had sent to show off to me. Then, let out a low sigh. They made them into a PPT with more than 70 pages. Together with the videos secretly taken by Mr. Zhang. They exposed all of it. If I got angry with him because of this kind of thing, I would seem unreasonable and petty. When Max learned about Belle's affairs, he was also stunned. He couldn't believe that the innocent and delicate little sister in his heart had actually used such methods to break up so many couples. He also thought of me, who had separated from him. It was said that he even went to look for me. But by then, I had already been promoted and often went on business trips abroad, so he didn't get to see me. On the other hand, Belle was pregnant. Her health was indeed not very good, and she couldn't have an abortion. She could only find someone to take the blame for the child, and Max was undoubtedly the most suitable candidate. So she set up a trap, and Max had no choice but to take the blame. No matter how uncomfortable Max felt in his heart, for the sake of the child, he could only stay with her. However, for some unknown reason, they didn't get married officially, nor did they hold a wedding banquet. It can only be said that Belle is a naturally restless person. Even after entering Max's family, she didn't stop causing trouble. With her coquettish ways, she not only messed up the relationship with the neighbors, but also caused so much trouble to Max's parents that the two of them, who were already quite old, almost got divorced. Max's mother threatened to commit suicide if Max didn't divorce Belle. Max's cousin also got involved in this matter and bluntly said that the child in Belle's belly was not Max's. Belle was forced to do a paternity test. After the results came out, Max's parents were so angry that they fainted on the spot. In a fit of anger, Max beat Belle up. This beating led to trouble. Belle's health was already poor, and as a pregnant woman, she had a miscarriage directly after being beaten and almost lost her life. She probably knew that she couldn't stay in Max's family anymore, so she called the police and accused Max and Mr. Zhang of intentional injury and rape, demanding that Max's family compensate her with 500 pounds in yuan. That incident turned out to be extremely ugly. Although Belle may be physically weak, she has never been a person with a weak character. On the contrary, she is very good at taking advantage of her own strengths. In this battle, although she lost her reputation, she ultimately won. Not only did she get the compensation money, but she also sent Max and Mr. Zhang to prison. When my friend told me about this matter, I just smiled. These are all their own choices. What does it have to do with me? I just walked through a muddy road and threw away a pair of dirty and worn-out shoes. From then on, the road ahead will be smooth. The end of the full text.